now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for November 23rd. Activity in the southern hemisphere has started with the formation of Tropical Storm Paddy, which was named shortly after yesterday's bulletin was published, upping the number of storms so far this year to 88, which remains to be 4 away from the yearly average of 92 on the 327th day of 2021. Day 175 of hurricane season in the Atlantic. Once again, the no storms active graphic is up and running, which means that once again, there is no activity expected here within the next 5 days. Now, believe it or not, only a week remains of hurricane season in this part of the world. Day 191 of hurricane season in the Eastern Pacific, and it is also quiet here as yet again no storms or invests, or for that matter areas of interest, are active in this part of the world. And yet again only a week remains of hurricane season in this part of the world. Over on the other side of the Pacific, it is also quiet here as yet again no storms are active. 93A isn't quite done yet, but we do not expect it to form, and as such we have maintained a 0% chance of formation on this invest throughout the next 5 days, and even for the next 2 days for that matter. Invest 91S was designated shortly before narration of this bulletin, but still maintains its 20% chance of formation in this part of the world. It was also a 20% markdown in the last bulletin as an area of interest, but it has since been invested and is now known as Invest 91S. Tropical Storm Paddy was named yesterday shortly after last night's bulletin went live. As of now, however, it isn't expected to last too long. And once again, nothing is active in the South Pacific. It's still warming up in this part of the world. Looking at the satellite imagery for the Atlantic, once again there isn't really much to write home about in this part of the world, apart from the odd thunderstorm activity which is taking place with those yellow flashes on your screen. The East Pacific is also fairly quiet yet again, with not a lot of any kind of activity going on in this part of the world. The West Pacific is also fairly quiet once again, not a lot of activity of any kind is going here. There isn't even any thunderstorm activity over in this part of the world. 93A is fighting a losing battle at this rate, as it is not even visible on satellite. Now hopefully this is the last we will see of Invest 93A. Tropical Storm Paddy is slowly hanging out in between the coasts of Java and northwestern Australia. 91S is also active further out to sea, and it maintains its 20% chance of formation. And the South Pacific yet again still remains devoid of any tropical activity. An extratropical system is still active northwest of New Zealand's North Island. Now once again, this is not an area of interest, so do not get your hopes up. Here's a closer look at Tropical Storm Paddy, currently located at 13.9 degrees south and 107.6 degrees east, with a wind speed of 45 miles per hour and a central pressure of 1001 millibars. Paddy isn't expected to last too long as a tropical storm, and it won't be impacting land, giving it no CDPS rating. This system will pretty soon degenerate into a remnant low in 48 hours time. Jumping into the sea surface temperatures, the West Pacific still remains largely 29 to 30 degrees Celsius, the Bay of Bengal registering around 28, the Arabian Sea registering 27 to 28 degrees, the tropical Atlantic remaining at 28 degrees but still maintains its cooling trend, the Gulf of Mexico with temperatures still in the low 20s along the coastline of the United States, and the tropical Eastern and Central Pacific registering around 27, or in the Central Pacific's case, some areas of 28 degrees Celsius. But offshore Mexico still remains 28. The southern hemisphere is warming up, with off the coast of Australia reaching temperatures of 29 to 30 degrees, and that as of now is where Tropical Storm Paddy is. And finally, the Southwest Indian Ocean still remains largely around 28 degrees Celsius. Jumping into the sea surface temperature anomalies, the Eastern and Central Pacific both remain cooler than average, but the west coast of Mexico still remains above average. The La Nina is still in full swing by quite a considerable amount. The Atlantic remains pretty much all above average. The West Pacific also remains above average. The Bay of Bengal is also above average. The Arabian Sea mostly at or below average. The Southwest Indian Ocean is mostly above, and the South Pacific remains half above and half below average. On this day today in 2004 was Cyclone Bento in the Southwest Indian Ocean, which peaked today as a Category 5 equivalent cyclone, making it the strongest cyclone in the month of November in the Southwest Indian Ocean. Also active today was Typhoon Muifa, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, located in the South China Sea after crossing the Philippines, but what had just crossed the Philippines was Tropical Depression Merbok, hopefully I've also pronounced that name correctly, which had just come off the coast of Luzon as a very much weakened tropical depression. And that brings us to the naming list. Now up next in the Atlantic, we are still waiting on the first name of the auxiliary list being Adria, followed by Braylon. Up next in the Eastern Pacific is Vivian, followed by Waldo. And up next in the Central Pacific still remains to be Hone. Up next in the West Pacific storm naming list on list 4 remains Nieto, followed by Rai. Up next in the North Indian Ocean is Jawad, followed by Asani. As the Australian region kicks off the first name in its naming list, next up is Ruby, followed by Seth. First up in the Southwest Indian Ocean is Anna, followed by Betserai. And finally, up next in the South Pacific is Cody, followed by Dovey. That's all from me for now. We'll see you for another Tropical Weather Bulletin tomorrow night.